I can see that you're getting too old to make decisions on your own. So, here's how it's going to work. Either you sign the deed to your house over to your son, or there won't be a wedding until the property is in his name." The mask of the polite, educated woman my future daughter-in-law usually wore had slipped, and the person staring back at me now was nothing more than a venomous, self-interested snake. I am standing in my own living room, the living room of the house I built with my own hands alongside my late husband over 30 years ago. These are the walls I painted, the hardwood floors I polished, every corner filled with memories of love and sacrifice. And here she is, Jessica Sterling, my son Michael's fiancée, looking at me as if I were just an obstacle in her path to something that never belonged to her. My hands tremble slightly as I lean against the back of the sofa. I am 67 years old, it is true, but my mind is as clear as spring water. Every word she just said rings in my ears like an echo that refuses to fade. Michael is standing right next to her. My only son. The boy I carried in my womb during 9 months of a difficult pregnancy. The baby I nursed while working part-time shifts at the textile plant. The teenager I stayed up with all night when he had pneumonia and the doctors gave us little hope. The young man for whom I worked 3 simultaneous jobs after his father died just so he could finish college and become an engineer. He is there, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. He doesn't defend me. He says nothing. He just remains silent, as if my humiliation is something natural, something that must be accepted without question. "Mrs. Margaret, don't take this the wrong way. It's just that Michael and I want to start our life together with security. You understand, right?" Jessica's voice sounds sweet now, like poisoned honey. Just 5 minutes ago, her tone was completely different. Just 5 minutes ago, she was calling me old and stubborn. But now that she sees the expression on my face, now that she perhaps perceives that she crossed some internal line of dignity, she tries to soften the blow. "It doesn't work, security." I repeat the word slowly, tasting every syllable as if it were vinegar. "What kind of security do you need that requires taking my house away from me?" "It's not taking it away, Mom," Michael finally speaks, but his voice sounds weak, rehearsed, as if he had repeated those words many times in front of a mirror. "It's just transferring the title to my name. You would still live here. Nothing would change for you. Nothing would change for me." The words float in the air like toxic smoke. I look at my son. I really look at him, trying to find the boy I knew, the young man who used to hug me and tell me I was the strongest woman in the world. But what I see is a 42-year-old man avoiding my gaze, biting his lower lip like he used to do when he was little and knew he had done something wrong. "Mom, understand. Jessica and I want to get married next year. But she's right to want to protect our future." "Protect your future from what?" I ask, and my voice sounds firmer than I expected. "From me? Am I the threat you need protection against?" Jessica sighs, a long, theatrical sigh, as if I were a stubborn child unable to grasp simple concepts. She sits on my sofa, the sofa I bought with my husband's life insurance money, and crosses her legs with studied elegance. "Mrs. Margaret, let's be realistic. You're already 67. Things happen. Illnesses, accidents, unforeseen situations. If the house is in your name and something happens to you, do you know how many legal problems we'd have to face? How long probate would take to resolve the inheritance? Michael is an only child. Eventually, the house will be his anyway. Why not simplify things now?" Every word is a hammer striking against my dignity. She talks about my death as if it were a pending administrative task. She talks about my existence as if it were a temporary inconvenience that needs to be managed efficiently. I feel something inside me break. It isn't my strength, nor my will. It is something deeper. It is the image I held of my son, the illusion that the love I gave him for 42 years meant something more than a paved road toward my property. "And if I don't want to?" I ask simply. The silence that follows is dense, heavy, like a storm about to break. Jessica stops smiling. Her face transforms into something hard, revealing what was always there beneath the mask of education and good manners. "Then there will be no wedding," she says with absolute coldness. "I am not going to marry a man who can't even secure a roof of his own for his family. I'm not going to build my life on the uncertainty of depending on the whims of a mother-in-law who could change her mind at any moment." Whims? The word hits me like an invisible slap. My whims? Wanting to keep the house I worked for every day of my adult life are whims? Mom, please. Michael's voice sounds almost pleading now. Don't make this harder than it has to be. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a signature. It doesn't change anything in reality, but it changes everything. I look at him and wonder when he stopped seeing me as his mother and started seeing me as an obstacle. I wonder at what moment my sacrifice became something taken for granted, something that doesn't even deserve the respect of an honest conversation. I need time to think, I say finally. Jessica stands up from the sofa with a sharp movement. Her patience, if it ever existed, has completely run out. Time to think? Mrs. Margaret, we've been talking about this for 3 months. 3 months in which you've gone around in circles without deciding anything. My family wants to know if there will be a wedding or not. We've already sent out the save the dates. We've already spoken to the church. We've already booked the reception hall. Do you know how much money we've invested in this? Her family. That is another revelation. It isn't just Jessica behind this. There is a whole family waiting, pressuring, demanding that I hand over the only thing I have left from a life of labor. How much more time do you need to sign a simple document? Jessica insists. And now her voice has an edge of steel. What exactly are you afraid of? That Michael will kick you out to the street? He's your son, for God's sake. What kind of mother thinks those things about her own son? And there it is. The reversal of guilt. Somehow, the fact that I hesitate becomes evidence of my mistrust, my malice, my selfishness. The fact that I want to protect what is mine transforms into a character flaw, a moral failing that makes me the villain of this story. I look at Michael one more time, giving him one last chance to defend me, to say something that proves I am still his mother and not just the owner of a property he needs to satisfy his fiancée. But he says nothing. He stays there, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor, like a child waiting for the storm to pass without having to pick a side. And in that silence, I understand that he has already picked a side. I think you both should leave, I say with a voice I don't recognize as my own. I need to be alone. Jessica lets out a brief, dry laugh, devoid of humor. She grabs her purse from the sofa and walks toward the door with determined steps. Think it over carefully, Mrs. Margaret, she says, without turning to look at me. Think about whether it's worth losing your son over a piece of land and cement, because that is what's going to happen. If you don't sign that paper, Michael will have to choose between you and me, and we both know who is going to win. The door closes behind them with a sound that feels definitive. I am left alone in my living room, surrounded by the memories of an entire life, wondering how I reached this moment, how the woman who raised a son with infinite love became a problem that needs to be solved with legal documents and thinly veiled threats. My legs give way, and I sit on the sofa, in the same spot where Jessica was just minutes ago. I can still feel the heat of her body on the cushion, like an invisible stain of poison. I look around my house. The walls my husband and I painted together one summer. The lamp we bought at that flea market when we barely had money to eat. The dining room table where Michael did his homework for years. The photographs on the mantel that document every important moment of our life as a family. This house isn't just a piece of land and cement. It is my history. It is my sacrifice. It is the physical proof that I survived the death of my husband, the poverty, the years of working until my hands bled, all to give my son a better future. And now they want me to hand it over as if it meant nothing? I feel hot tears rolling down my cheeks. But they aren't tears of sadness. They are tears of rage, of indignation, of a brutal awakening to a reality I didn't want to see. My son, the boy for whom I would have given my life without a second thought, is willing to sacrifice my dignity for a woman he has barely known for months. And that woman, that snake with an angel's face, knows it. She knows exactly which buttons to push. She knows that a mother's love is her greatest weakness and the most powerful weapon against me. The phone rings, startling me. It's Michael. Mom, I just wanted to tell you that Jessica didn't mean to offend you. She's stressed with the wedding preparations. You know how these things are. No, I say quietly. I don't know how these things are. I never asked your grandmother to give me her house so I could marry your father. There is silence on the other end of the line. Those were different times, Mom. Things were different. Different how? I ask. Different because back then people had dignity? Different because respect meant something? Michael sighs, and I can imagine him running a hand through his hair, that gesture he makes when he's frustrated. Just think about it, okay? Think about what's best for everyone, not just for you. And he hangs up. I stare at the phone in my hand, feeling the weight of his words settle in my chest like a rock. Not just for you. As if thinking of myself were an unforgivable act of selfishness. As if 42 years of thinking only of him didn't give me the right to think of myself, even just once. Night falls over my house, and I find myself sitting in the dark, without the energy to turn on the lights. Familiar sounds surround me. The ticking of the wall clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the occasional car passing on the street. Sounds of a life built with effort and love. A life that someone now wants to snatch away from me with papers and threats. And while I sit there in the darkness of my own living room, I realize something that terrifies and liberates me at the same time. For the first time in my life, I am going to have to choose between my son and myself, and I have no idea what I am going to do. The days following that confrontation drag on like open wounds. Michael doesn't come back to visit, but he doesn't stop calling. Every conversation is a repetition of the same script. He needs me to understand, to be reasonable, to think of his future. He never mentions my past. He never talks about everything I sacrificed to build that future he now speaks of with such urgency. It is Tuesday afternoon when the doorbell rings. I open the door expecting perhaps the mail carrier or a solicitor, but it is Michael standing there, with a folder under his arm and an expression attempting to look casual, but failing to hide the tension in his jaw. "Hi, Mom. Can I come in?" I step aside without saying a word. He enters and heads directly to the dining table, the same table where he ate throughout his childhood, where I made his favorite meals for every birthday, where I helped him with the math homework he hated so much. He places the folder on the wooden surface and opens it with precise, almost mechanical movements. "I brought the documents," he says without looking me in the eye. "You just need to sign here, here, and here." I reviewed it with a lawyer. "Everything is in order. The title transfer is simple, and you keep the right to live here for the rest of your life. It's all legally specified." I approach the table slowly. I look at the papers without really seeing them. The words blur in my vision. Quitclaim deed, grantor, grantee, covenants and conditions. "You reviewed this with a lawyer?" I ask softly. "Yes, Mom. With a lawyer from the company where I work. He gave me a special rate. He only charged me $500 to review everything and make sure it was correct. $500. He spent $500 to ensure the documents that would strip me of my house were perfectly drafted." I wonder if at any moment during that legal consultation, he thought to ask the lawyer what protections I, his mother, had in this entire process. "And what exactly does this document say about my rights?" I ask. Michael points to a paragraph with his finger, still avoiding direct eye contact. "Here it says clearly that you maintain a life estate. That means you can live here until you die. No one can kick you out. It's protected by law, until I die." Once again, we are talking about my death, as if it were a pending item on a to-do list. "And if I need to sell the house?" I ask. "If I have a medical emergency? If the maintenance costs become too high for my Social Security check? If I simply decide I want to move to a smaller place?" Michael finally looks at me, and there is something in his eyes I cannot decipher. Is it impatience? Guilt? Both? "Mom, if you need anything, I'll be here to help you. I'm your son. But if the house is in your name and something happens to you, Jessica and I would have to wait months, maybe years, to resolve the estate, especially if there are problems with the documents or if some distant relative shows up claiming rights." "What distant relative?" My voice rises without my control. "You are an only child. There is no one else. You never know. Mom, it's better to prevent issues. It's the sensible thing to do." Sensible. That word again. As if sensibility were synonymous with stripping me of everything that gives me security. I sit in one of the dining chairs, suddenly feeling the weight of my 67 years on my shoulders. Michael remains standing, waiting, with the pen already in his hand, as if it were only a matter of minutes before I caved. "Tell me about Jessica," I say suddenly. How did you meet? The question catches him by surprise. He blinks several times before answering. I already told you, Mom. We met at an engineering conference in the capital. She was working at a software company's booth. And what do you know about her family? Michael shifts uncomfortably, putting the pen back in his shirt pocket. Her mother's name is Eleanor. She's a widow, like you. She has her own house, too. Jessica has a younger brother who lives overseas. And what does Eleanor think of all this? Michael's expression changes subtly. There is something there, something he doesn't want to tell me. She agrees that it's the best thing for us, the best thing for you all, or the best thing for them. Mom, don't start with theories. Jessica loves me. She wants to marry me. She just wants security for our future. And why must that security come from taking what is mine? We aren't taking anything from you. Michael's voice becomes harder now, more impatient. You're going to keep living here. Nothing is going to change. I stand up from the chair and walk toward the living room window. From here, I can see the small garden my husband planted years ago, the rose bushes I pruned every spring, the lemon tree that bears fruit twice a year. Everything changes, I say softly. When I sign that paper, I will no longer be the owner of my own life. I will be a guest in my own house, living here by your generosity, not by my right. It's not the same. No. Tell me, Michael, if tomorrow Jessica decides she wants to remodel this house, who is going to have the final say? If you decide you need money and want to sell, will I have any power to stop it? If we have a disagreement about anything, who is going to decide? The legal owner of the property or the old woman living here on charity? I hear his steps approaching behind me. He puts his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that used to be comforting but now feels like a shackle. Mom, trust me. When have I ever failed you? The question hangs suspended in the air like smoke. I want to tell him he is failing me right now, that every day he spends pressuring me, manipulating me, is a failure. That the simple fact of being here with those documents instead of defending me to his fiancée is a monumental failure. But I say none of that. Instead, I turn to look at him and ask something I need to know. What would happen if I say no? If I simply refuse to sign? What would you do? Michael removes his hand from my shoulder. His face hardens in a way that hurts to watch. Jessica isn't going to marry me if we don't resolve this. She already told you, and I'm not going to lose her over this. Over this. My house, my security, my right to keep what is mine is reduced to this, something unimportant standing in the way of his happiness. Do you love her that much? I ask. Yes, he answers without hesitation. I want to build a life with her. I want to have children. I want to move forward. Move forward. As if I were the past he needs to break free from. And what if she isn't who you think she is? My voice is barely a whisper. What if all she wants is to ensure there's a property in your name? What if this is all a strategy? Michael takes a step back, as if I had slapped him. How can you say that? How can you think so poorly of the woman I love? Because I saw her take off the mask, Michael. I saw how she spoke to me. I saw the coldness in her eyes when she called me old and incapable of making my own decisions. She was stressed. I already explained that. No, she wasn't stressed. She was showing who she really is. And you chose not to see it because it's easier to blame me for being suspicious than to accept that maybe she is manipulating you. The silence that follows is dense and painful. Michael snatches the folder from the table with abrupt movements. I came here in good faith, Mom. I came with documents that legally protect you, but I see there is no way to make you listen to reason. Listen to reason? Is that what you think I need? I think you need to stop being so selfish and think about someone other than yourself for once in your life. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I lose my breath for a moment, unable to believe what I just heard. Selfish. My voice sounds broken even to my own ears. Did you just call me selfish? Michael has the decency to look uncomfortable, but he doesn't take it back. Mom, No, you've said enough. You called the woman who worked 18-hour days after your father died so you could eat 3 times a day selfish. Selfish to the woman who sold her wedding jewelry to pay for your final year of college. Selfish to the woman who skipped meals so you could have money for your books. Every word comes out of my mouth like a knife, cutting the air between us. I didn't ask for those sacrifices, he says, and his voice sounds defensive now, almost childish. I never asked you to do all that. No, you didn't ask. I did it because you are my son, and because I love you. Because that is how a mother's love works. But apparently, a son's love works differently. A son's love comes with conditions and legal documents. Michael presses the folder against his chest as if it were a shield. I'm going to leave before we say things we can't take back. I think we already said them, I reply. He walks to the door but stops with his hand on the knob. Without turning to look at me, he says, Eleanor, Jessica's mom, wants to meet you. She says that maybe if you talk to another mother, to someone who understands what you're going through, you might see things from another perspective. Another mother who understands? Or another person who wants to pressure me? Michael doesn't answer. He simply opens the door and leaves, letting it close softly behind him. I remain standing in the middle of my living room, feeling how the familiar walls suddenly seem smaller, more fragile. The clock strikes 4 in the afternoon. Outside, I can hear children playing in the street, innocent laughter that contrasts brutally with the emptiness I feel in my chest. I walk to my bedroom, to the small desk where I keep my important documents. I open the drawer and take out the deed to the house. The paper is old, yellowing at the edges, but the letters remain clear. Margaret Sullivan, owner, my name, my property, my security. I think about Michael's words, how he called me selfish for wanting to keep what is mine. I think about Jessica and her cold ultimatum. I think about this Eleanor who now wants to meet me, probably to add her voice to the chorus of pressure. And I think about something my own mother told me many years ago, when I was young and about to get married. Daughter, never depend completely on anyone, not even on the man you love. Always keep something that is yours alone, something no one can take from you. At that moment, I didn't fully understand her words. I was in love. I trusted my future husband. I believed love was sufficient protection. But my mother knew something I had to learn with time. Life changes, people change, and the only thing you have guaranteed is yourself and what you have built with your own effort. This house is that. It is my construction, my effort, my guarantee that no matter what happens, I have a place in the world that no one can snatch away. Until now. The phone rings, interrupting my thoughts. It is a number I don't recognize. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan? A female voice asks on the other end of the line. Yes, this is she. This is Eleanor Sterling, Jessica's mother, your future in-law. The word future sounds like a thinly veiled threat. Michael gave me your number. I hope you don't mind that I called. I would very much like to meet you. How about you come over for tea at my house this Friday? We could talk woman to woman, mother to mother. I think we have much to discuss. Her voice is soft, almost maternal, but there is something beneath that softness that puts me on alert. I'm not sure that's a good idea, I reply cautiously. Please, Mrs. Margaret, I know things got tense with Jessica. My daughter can be intense sometimes, but she has a good heart. She only wants the best for herself and for Michael. As mothers, isn't that what we want too? The best for our children? The manipulation is so subtle it almost seems reasonable. Let me think about it, I say finally. Of course. But don't think too long. Friday is only 3 days away, and I really believe this conversation could help resolve this entire misunderstanding. She hangs up before I can respond. I stare at the phone in my hand, feeling the trap closing slowly around me. Wednesday night, I can't sleep. I toss and turn in bed looking at the ceiling, where the shadows of the garden trees are projected through the window. It is 3 in the morning, and my mind won't stop replaying every conversation, every gesture, every word spoken in the last few days. I get up and go to the kitchen. I make chamomile tea, the same kind I used to make for Michael when he was little and had nightmares. I sit at the table and hold the hot mug between my hands, letting the steam caress my face. On the shelf next to the window is a framed photograph. Michael is 8 years old in that picture. He is smiling, showing the gap where he lost his first tooth. I am behind him, hugging him, and we both look happy. It was his birthday. I had worked double shifts for 2 weeks to buy him the bicycle he wanted so much. I remember his face when he saw it. I remember how he hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. I remember he told me, "You are the best mom in the whole world." At what moment did that boy become the man who called me selfish? Thursday morning, Michael calls again. Mom, Eleanor told me she invited you to her house tomorrow. Please, go. Do it for me. It's just a conversation. Just this one. Nothing more. His voice sounds tired, almost defeated. And a part of me, that maternal part that never dies no matter how much you are hurt, wants to yield just to take that sadness out of his voice. Okay, I say, before I can stop myself. I'll go. I hear his sigh of relief on the other end of the line. Thank you, Mom. You'll see that everything is going to be resolved. Eleanor is very reasonable, very understanding. I hang up before I change my mind. Friday arrives too quickly. I dress with care, choosing a simple but dignified dress. I look in the mirror and see a 67-year-old woman who has worked all her life, who has survived losses and sacrifices, but who now looks tired. There are deep lines around my eyes. My hair, once black as night, is now silver gray. When did I get old? I wonder. When did I stop being Margaret and become the old woman who needs to be handled? Michael picks me up at 3 in the afternoon. The trip to Eleanor's house takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes of uncomfortable silence where neither of us knows what to say. The radio is on, but the volume is so low I can barely hear it. Eleanor's house is in a better neighborhood than mine. It is a modern 2-story construction, with a perfectly manicured front lawn and a carved wooden door that probably cost more than all my furniture combined. Michael rings the doorbell. Seconds later, the door opens, and there is Jessica. She looks at me with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Mrs. Margaret, so glad you could make it. My mother is expecting you. We enter a spacious and bright living room. The furniture is elegant, everything coordinated with a taste that speaks of money and free time to worry about decoration. On the walls hang paintings that look expensive. On a side table, there are family photographs in silver frames. Eleanor appears from what seems to be the kitchen. She is a tall woman, about 65, with perfectly styled hair and discreet but professional makeup. She wears a house dress that probably cost more than my best Sunday clothes. Margaret, dear, she says with a wide smile as she approaches with outstretched arms. What a pleasure to finally meet you. Michael speaks so much of you. She hugs me briefly, and I can smell her expensive perfume. When she pulls away, her eyes scan me up and down in a quick but obvious assessment. Come in, come in. I prepared tea and some snacks. I thought we could talk quietly. We head to a formal dining room. The table is set with fine china and a porcelain teapot gleaming under the chandelier light. There are small, perfectly cut sandwiches, cookies that look like they're from a French bakery, and fruit cut into decorative shapes. It is a display of abundance, of economic security, of everything I do not have. Sit down, Margaret, Eleanor says, pointing to a chair. Michael, Jessica, why don't you give us a few minutes? I think Margaret and I need to talk alone. Mother to mother. I see the look Michael exchanges with Jessica. There is something there, something rehearsed. This was planned. They leave, closing the dining room door behind them, and I am left alone with Eleanor. She pours the tea with elegant, precise movements. She places the cup in front of me and then sits, crossing her hands on the table. Margaret, I'm going to be honest with you because I believe women of our age don't have time for beating around the bush. I know why you are resisting transferring the house to Michael. Oh, really? My voice sounds more defiant than I intended. Yes. You are afraid. Afraid of losing your independence. Afraid of being left vulnerable. Afraid that if you hand over the only thing of value you have, you will cease to matter. Her words hit me because they are true. But the way she says them, with that mixture of understanding and condescension, makes my skin crawl. I went through the same thing, she continues. When my husband died 10 years ago, he left me this house and a good life insurance policy. My children wanted me to put everything in their names for security. I resisted at first too. And what did you do? I ask, although I'm not sure I want to know the answer. I understood that a mother's love sometimes means letting go. It means trusting. It means putting our children's needs above our own fears. She takes a sip of her tea before continuing. In the end, I signed the house over to Jessica. She is my eldest, the most responsible. And you know what? It was the best decision I could have made. Now I live here without the burden of being the owner, without worrying about taxes, maintenance, all those headaches. Jessica takes care of everything, and I just enjoy my home. The way she says my home sounds hollow, as if she were trying to convince herself as much as me. But you chose to do it, I say softly. No one threatened to cancel a wedding. No one called you old and incapable. Eleanor sets her cup down with a little more force than necessary. Jessica shouldn't have said those things. I already spoke to her about it. But you have to understand, Margaret, that young people today are different. They are more direct, more practical. They don't deal in sentimentality when it comes to financial security. Sentimentality? Is that what you call wanting to keep what is mine? It's your house now, Margaret. But when you die, whose will it be? Michael's anyway. So what difference does it make if you give it to him now, or if he has to wait for you to go to inherit it? The only difference is that now you can see him happy. You can see your son get married, maybe meet your grandchildren. There it is, the carrot and the stick. Give me what I want or lose the chance to see your son happy, to meet your grandchildren. And if I need to sell the house someday? I ask. If I have a medical emergency and need money? If the cost of living becomes impossible on my Social Security? Eleanor looks at me with something resembling pity. That is what children are for, Margaret. To take care of their parents, when the parents can no longer take care of themselves. Michael would never leave you destitute. But I would be destitute, I say, feeling my voice become firmer. I would be depending completely on his goodwill, on his generosity. I would live on his property, not mine. Every decision I made about my own life would have to pass through his approval. That is life, Margaret. Parents take care of children when they are small. Children take care of parents when they are old. It is the natural cycle. And Jessica? I ask suddenly. Does she agree with taking care of me? Or does she only agree with having my house? Eleanor stiffens. Her smile becomes tighter. Jessica is a good woman. A hard-working woman who knows the value of money and security. She wants to build a solid future with Michael. Is that so bad? It's not bad to want security, I say. What is bad is wanting to build that security on the ashes of mine. You are being dramatic. Am I? I came here because I was told you wanted to help, that as a mother you would understand my position. But the only thing I hear is the same pressure disguised as maternal advice. Eleanor stands up from her chair. She walks to the window and stands there, turning her back to me. When her voice sounds again, the maternal tone has completely disappeared. Very well, Margaret, I will be even more blunt. My daughter is not going to marry a man who cannot demonstrate stability. In our world, in our social class, that means having assets in your name. Not living in mommy's house. Social class. I repeat the words as if they were poison. Yes, social class. Michael is a good man, hard-working, intelligent, but he comes from modest circumstances. That isn't a problem for us, as long as he demonstrates ambition, capacity for progress. And you are standing in the way of that progress. I stand up as well, feeling the rage begin to boil in my chest. Modest circumstances, that is what you call a life of honest work. That is what you call the sacrifices I made to give my son an education and a future. No one is belittling your sacrifices, says Eleanor, turning to look at me. But those sacrifices are already made. You already fulfilled your role as a mother. Now it is time for Michael to take his own path. And you are clinging to him as if he were still a child. I am not clinging to my son. I am clinging to my house, to my security, to my right to have something that is mine. Eleanor lets out a short, dry laugh. Your security? Margaret, you are a 67-year-old woman with a miserable monthly check and a house that probably needs more repairs than you can afford. What kind of security is that? On the other hand, if you give the house to Michael, he and Jessica will take care of everything. The maintenance, the taxes, any emergency that arises. You will live better than you live now. I will live like a guest, I say, like someone tolerated out of charity. You will live like a mother in her son's house, like millions of women our age all over the world. The dining room door opens, and Jessica enters with a pitcher of ice water. But the way she enters, without knocking, without asking permission, tells me she was listening behind the door. Mrs. Margaret, she says with that sweet voice that no longer fools me. My mother is right. This doesn't have to be difficult. Michael loves you. I respect your place as his mother, But we need to start our married life on solid foundations. And those foundations have to be built on my helplessness. Jessica sets the pitcher on the table with a sharp thud. It isn't helplessness, it is family. Or at least, that's how it should be. Family. My voice breaks despite my efforts to keep it steady. Family threatens. Family manipulates. Family makes you choose between your dignity and your son's love. Love has nothing to do with papers and property, says Jessica. Then why do you make a paper and a property the condition for love? The silence that follows is absolute. The three women look at each other, each representing something different. Me, the mother refusing to yield. Eleanor, the mother who yielded and now rationalizes her decision. Jessica, the woman who sees assets as the true marker of worth. I think I should go, I say finally. Michael can take you, says Eleanor with a cold voice. But think about what we talked about here, Margaret. Think about what you are going to be. A mother who helps her son build his future, or an obstacle in his path to happiness? I leave the dining room and find Michael in the living room, looking at his phone. When he sees me, he stands up quickly. Are you done? How did it go? Take me home, is all I say. The trip back is even more silent than the way there. But this time the silence isn't uncomfortable. It is definitive. Michael stops the car in front of my house, but he doesn't turn off the engine. It's a clear signal. He isn't coming in. He isn't staying. He is just fulfilling the duty of bringing me back. Before I can open the door, he speaks. What did Eleanor tell you? I turn to look at him. His face is tense, almost anxious. He needs to know if his plan worked, if the pressure from another mother was enough to break my resistance. She told me I should be grateful that you two want to take care of me. I reply with a flat voice. That I should hand over my house and live off the favor of my son and his wife. Mom, it wasn't like that. No? Then tell me, Michael, how was it? Because I was there. I heard every word. I saw how they looked at me as if I were a problem that needs a solution. Michael hits the steering wheel gently with frustration. I just wanted you to talk to someone who understood. Someone who went through the same thing and could advise you. Someone who compromised. You mean someone who gave in? Someone who now lives in her daughter's house and has to convince herself that it was her decision? Eleanor is happy with her situation. Is she? Because when I looked her in the eyes, I saw a woman trying to justify her own surrender. I saw someone who needs me to do the same to validate her own decisions. Michael closes his eyes and breathes deeply. When he speaks again, his voice has a tone of exhaustion I hadn't heard before. I don't know what else to do, Mom. I've tried to explain to you. I've brought the legal documents that protect you. I've introduced you to someone who can advise you. What else do you need? I need you to see me, I say, and my voice breaks despite my efforts. I need you to see your mother, not an obstacle on your way to marriage. I need you, for once, just once, to take my side, instead of the side of a woman you've known for less than a year. I am on your side, Mom. No, Michael. You are on the side of your future with Jessica. And I understand that. I understand you are in love, that you want to build a life with her. But what I don't understand is why that life has to start with stripping me of what I have. It's not stripping you. It's a transfer. You still have all the rights. I get out of the car before he can finish the sentence. I can't listen to the same explanation again. The same empty words about rights that exist only on paper but not in reality. I enter my house and close the door behind me. I hear the car engine fade away slowly, as if Michael expected me to run out and stop him, to tell him yes, that I will sign whatever it takes not to lose him. But I don't go out. I stay standing in the entryway of my own house, feeling the weight of everything that just happened settle on my shoulders like a physical burden. That night I don't eat dinner. I'm not hungry. I sit on the living room sofa with the lights off, letting the darkness wrap around me. Outside, I can hear the normal sounds of the neighborhood dogs barking, distant music, the occasional passing car. Normal life. Life continuing, while mine crumbles. Saturday morning, I wake up with a headache that feels like it wants to split my skull in two. I take 2 pills and make coffee, but even the smell turns my stomach. The phone rings. It's an unknown number again. For a moment, I consider not answering, but something tells me ignoring it will only make things worse. Missus. Margaret? Speaking. This is Linda Kowalski. I'm a friend of Eleanor's. I don't know any Linda Kowalski. I know, says the voice with a tone that is far too cheerful. But Eleanor told me about your situation and I thought maybe I could help. I'm a notary public and legal document preparer. I specialize in property transfers and estate matters. Of course she does. I don't need a notary, I say firmly. Well, actually you do, she replies with a professional tone. If you decide to do the transfer, you're going to need someone to notarize the documents, and I can offer you a very special rate. Just $300 for the travel and the whole process. Normally I charge double, $300. Michael paid $500 for a lawyer to review documents. Now this woman wants $300 to certify them. $800 in total to strip me of my house officially and legally. I am not going to do any transfer, I say. There is a brief silence on the other end. Mrs. Margaret, I understand your reservations, but let me tell you something, as a professional who has seen hundreds of cases like yours. When parents resist transferring their properties in time, things always end worse. I've seen families destroyed, children who end up with nothing because their parents were selfish until the end. That word again, selfish. Do you know what seems selfish to me? I answer, feeling rage start to rise in my throat. That a notary I have never met calls me to pressure me to do something that clearly benefits her friend and her business. That seems selfish to me. I hang up before she can respond. My hands shake as I leave the phone on the table. How many people are involved in this? How many people have been recruited to pressure me, to make me feel like I am the one who is wrong, the one who is being irrational? Sunday, Michael doesn't call. It is the first time in years that a whole Sunday passes without speaking to me. We used to have a routine. He would call in the morning, we would chat about the week, sometimes he came for lunch, but this Sunday there is only silence. It is a silence that speaks louder than any word. It is a clear message. Either you give in or you lose your son. Monday morning, I find an envelope in my mailbox. It has no return address. Inside is a letter printed on fine paper with a professional letterhead. Dear Mrs. Sullivan, we are writing to inform you that we have been retained by Mr. Michael Sullivan to advise him on matters of estate planning and asset transfer. It is our understanding that there is a residential property registered in your name, which Mr. Sullivan, as the sole child and legal heir, has an interest in having transferred to his name during your lifetime. Please be advised that under current laws, these types of transfers are completely legal and advisable from a tax and succession standpoint. If not performed during your lifetime, the property will be subject to probate processes that can take between 12 and 24 months, with costs that can reach up to 15% of the total value of the asset. We remain at your disposal for any questions or to proceed with the transfer when you deem it convenient. Sincerely, Sterling and Associates Legal Group. The paper trembles in my hands. Sterling, Jessica's last name, Eleanor's last name. This is not a coincidence. This is a calculated strategy. They have a law firm with their own last name. They probably offered their services to Michael at a reduced price, maybe free, on the condition that they pressure me. I sit on the steps of my porch, holding the letter, feeling how every line is another turn of the screw in the trap they have built around me. It isn't just Jessica. It isn't just Eleanor. It is a whole network of people, all working toward the same goal, making me hand over my house. And the worst part is, they are using Michael. They are convincing him that this is normal, that it is the right thing to do, that I am the one being irrational. That afternoon, I go for a walk in the park near my house. I need air. I need space. I need to be away from the walls that suddenly feel as if they are closing in on me. I sit on a bench under a large tree that has been there since I moved to the neighborhood 30 years ago. I used to bring Michael here when he was little. I taught him to ride a bike in this very park. I pushed him on those swings that are still there, rusty but functional. An older woman sits on the other end of the bench. She must be over 70. She has a cane leaning beside her and a bag of bread to feed the pigeons. Nice day, she says without looking at me. Yes, I reply automatically. I've been coming here for years, she continues as she throws crumbs on the ground. Since my husband died, 22 years now. I don't know what to say, so I just nod. I lived with my oldest son, she says. He insisted after the funeral said it was dangerous for me to live alone. So I sold my house and moved in with him, his wife, and their kids. Something in her tone makes me look at her more closely. And how did it go? She lets out a bitter laugh. The first 6 months were tolerable. Then the complaints started. That I made too much noise in the mornings. That I watched TV too late. That the grandkids needed my room because they were growing. Little by little I began to understand. I wasn't welcome. I was tolerated. I'm sorry, I say softly. She looks directly at me for the first time. Are they pressuring you to leave something? Your house, maybe? Her perception surprises me. How did you know? Because I'm 74 years old, and I've seen this story repeat dozens of times. Children who suddenly worry a lot about their parents' security, daughters-in-law or sons-in-law who talk about family planning, lawyers who appear out of nowhere offering help. That is exactly what is happening, I admit. She nods as if I had confirmed something she already knew. Let me tell you something I learned too late. When you hand over the only thing that gives you power in this life, you hand over everything. It doesn't matter what the papers say. It doesn't matter the promises. Once you have nothing that is yours, you become nothing to them. Her words fall on me like stones. But he is my son, I say weakly. He loves me. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. But love isn't enough protection when there is money and interest involved. And believe me, there is always money and interest involved. She gets up with the help of her cane. Before leaving, she leans toward me and says, "Keep your house, keep your dignity, keep your power. Because once you lose them, you never get them back." I watch her walk slowly away down the park path, and her words resonate in my head like a warning bell. I return home when it starts to get dark. There is another car parked in front of my door, a car I don't recognize. When I get closer, I see Jessica getting out of it. She comes alone this time, without Michael, without Eleanor, just her. "Mrs. Margaret," she says with a smile that doesn't seem genuine. "We need to talk. Really talk. No intermediaries. Just you and me." I invite her in, because not doing so would give her more ammunition to paint me as the villain of this story. But every instinct in my body tells me this isn't going to end well. Jessica enters and looks around my living room with an expression I cannot decipher. Is it disdain? Calculation? Both? "Nice house," she says, but the tone suggests the opposite. "Thank you." She sits without being invited, crossing her legs with that studied elegance I have seen before. "I'm going to be direct, because clearly beating around the bush doesn't work with you," she says. "Michael and I are getting married, with your blessing or without it, with this house or without it, but we would prefer to have you on our side." And what does being on your side mean? It means signing the documents. It means stopping making this harder than necessary. It means accepting that your time for making major decisions has passed. Her words are like knives wrapped in silk. "My time has not passed," I say with a firm voice. "I am still the owner of my life and my decisions." Jessica leans forward, and for the first time, I see something dangerous in her eyes. It has, because from where I'm sitting, I see an old, lonely woman clinging to a house she can barely maintain, trying to control a son who is already an adult. I am not controlling him. I am protecting myself. From what? From your own son? From you, I say finally. I am protecting myself from you. The silence that follows is glacial. Jessica leans back on the sofa, but there is no relaxation in her posture. She is like a cat, calculating the exact moment to pounce. "Protecting yourself from me," she repeats with a smile that has no warmth. "Interesting. And what do you think I'm going to do to you, Mrs. Margaret?" "I think you are going to do exactly what you are already doing," I reply. "Manipulate my son. Pressure him to take away the only thing that gives me security. And when you succeed, when the house is in Michael's name, you are going to ensure that I am as unimportant as possible in his life." Jessica lets out a brief laugh. "Do you know what your problem is, Mrs. Margaret? You can't accept that your son grew up, that he doesn't need you like before, that your role as a protective mother has already served its function. My role as a mother never ends. Of course it ends. It ends when children form their own families, when they choose life partners, when they decide their own future. And you are standing in the way of all that." I stand up from the armchair, feeling indignation give me strength. I am not standing in the way of anything. You are the ones demanding something that doesn't belong to you. My house is not part of the marriage package. It should be, says Jessica with absolute coldness. It should be your wedding gift to your only son. Your way of showing him you want to see him established, secure, with an asset in his name. He already has assets. He has his education, his job, his engineer's salary. That isn't enough. Not enough for what? For you? For your family? To build a dignified life. So I can look my mother in the eye and tell her I married a man who can provide. There is the truth. It isn't about love. It isn't about Michael. It is about what she can show her family, her friends, the world. It is about status. Michael can provide, I say. He has a good job. A job, yes, but not property, not assets. In my social circle, Mrs. Margaret, that matters. A 42-year-old man who lives in his mommy's house isn't a good catch. Then maybe you should look in another social circle. Jessica's eyes harden. I love Michael, but I am not going to sacrifice my future, my stability, my position, for a stubborn mother-in-law who doesn't know when to let go. Then don't marry him, I say clearly. If you need me to strip myself of my security so you can have yours, then clearly you don't love my son enough. Jessica stands up abruptly. Her elegant composure is cracking. Do you know what will happen if you continue with this attitude? Michael is going to have to choose, and when he chooses me, you are going to be left alone. Completely alone. With your precious house and without your son. If that is his choice, then so be it. The words leave my mouth before I can stop them. But the moment I say them, I know they are true. Jessica looks at me as if I had just said something incomprehensible. Do you really prefer to lose your son rather than sign a paper? I prefer to keep my dignity. My adult son can make his own decisions. But I am not going to sacrifice my security just to make things easier for him. You are incredible, says Jessica, shaking her head. Incredibly selfish. She grabs her purse and walks toward the door. But before leaving, she turns one last time. My mother was right about you. She said you were the type of woman who never lets go, who always needs to be in control. She said you were going to be a problem. I thought I could reason with you, but I see it's impossible. Your mother doesn't know me, I say calmly. And neither do you. If you knew me, you would know I have let go of many things in my life. I have let go of dreams, comforts, time. I have let go of everything for my son. But I am not going to let go of the only thing I have left. Jessica opens the door with force. Get ready, Mrs. Margaret, because things are going to change. Michael is going to have to make a definitive decision. And when he does, don't come crying because your son doesn't visit you anymore. The door closes with a slam that makes the picture frames on the wall shake. I remain standing in the middle of my living room, feeling my heart beat wildly in my chest. My hands shake. My knees feel weak. But there is something else inside me, something I didn't expect to feel. Relief. Relief at having told the truth. Relief at not having yielded. Relief at knowing that at least I know who I am and what I am worth. That night, the phone rings at 11. It is Michael. His voice sounds cold, distant, as if he were speaking to a stranger. Jessica told me what you said. I told her the truth according to you, Mom. But what I see is a woman who prefers her house over her son's happiness. It isn't my house or your happiness, Michael. It is my security or your convenience. Those are very different things. I hear his heavy breathing on the other end of the line. I'm not going to call you for a while. I need space. I need to think if I really want to keep trying with someone who doesn't support me. Someone who doesn't support you. I repeat the words slowly. Is that how you see 42 years of sacrifices? As a lack of support? That was before. This is now. And he hangs up. I am left with the phone in my hand, listening to the dial tone, feeling every word of that conversation stick in my chest like shards of glass. The days that follow are the quietest of my life. No calls, no visits. It is as if Michael had disappeared from my world. I try to keep busy. I clean the house from top to bottom. I fix the garden. I organize drawers that didn't need organizing. But nothing fills the void I feel. Thursday morning, 2 weeks after my last conversation with Michael, the doorbell rings. When I open it, I find a young man with a manila envelope in his hands. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan, yes? I have a notification for you. I need you to sign this receipt. I sign with trembling hands and take the envelope. The man leaves without further explanation. I close the door and open the envelope with clumsy fingers. Inside are legal documents. I read the first lines and feel the ground move beneath my feet. Petition for conservatorship due to mental incapacity. Mr. Michael Sullivan petitions this court to declare Mrs. Margaret Sullivan incapable of managing her own affairs due to mental deterioration associated with advanced age. It is requested that Mr. Michael Sullivan be appointed legal guardian with power to make financial and estate decisions on behalf of Mrs. Sullivan. The words blur. My son, my only son, is trying to have me declared legally incompetent. He is trying to take away not only my house but my complete autonomy. I sit on the sofa because my legs no longer support me. I read the full document, every line more devastating than the last. According to statements by the petitioner, Mrs. Sullivan has shown irrational behavior, including refusal to make sensible decisions regarding her estate, excessive distrust toward family members, and social isolation. Everything I have done to protect myself is being used as evidence of my alleged mental incapacity. The phone rings. It is an unknown number, but I answer anyway. Mrs. Sullivan? Speaking. This is Dr. Robert Vance. I am a psychiatrist, and I have been appointed by the court to perform an evaluation of your mental state. We need to schedule an appointment as soon as possible. My voice barely works. An evaluation? Yes, ma'am. It is standard procedure in conservatorship cases. Don't worry. It is only to determine your capacity to make independent decisions. Can you come to my office next Monday at 10 a.m.? Me? Yes, I suppose. Perfect. I will send you the address via text message. Bring your ID and any medication you are currently taking. He hangs up before I can ask questions. I sit with the phone in one hand and the legal documents in the other, trying to process what just happened. My son is trying to declare me incompetent. He is using the legal system to take everything from me, and he is doing it with the help of Jessica's family law firm, with a psychiatrist who probably already has his report written before meeting me. It is a coordinated attack, systematic, calculated, and I am completely alone. That night I don't sleep. I lie in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling every sound of the house amplified in the silence. The ticking of the clock, the creaking of old wood, the wind hitting gently against the windows. Sounds of a house I could lose, not by my death, but by a legal declaration that would turn me into less than a person, into just another property that needs to be managed. Friday morning, I make a decision. I need help. I need advice. I need someone to tell me I'm not crazy, that what is happening isn't normal, that I have a right to defend myself. I look in the yellow pages and find the number for a different law firm, one that has nothing to do with the Sterling family. I call and explain my situation to the receptionist. I need to see a lawyer. It is urgent. They give me an appointment for Monday afternoon, after the psychiatric evaluation. The weekend drags on like an eternity. I don't eat. I barely sleep. I spend hours reading and rereading the legal documents, trying to find some loophole, some flaw in their strategy. But it is all well constructed. Michael has statements from Jessica and Eleanor. He has the testimony of the notary, Linda Kowalski, who apparently declared that I seemed confused when I spoke to her on the phone. He has a letter from the doctor who saw me 6 months ago for the flu, saying that at my age it is normal to experience cognitive decline. They have built a case against me using every conversation, every interaction, every refusal of mine as evidence of my supposed incapacity. Monday, I arrive at the psychiatrist's office 15 minutes early. The waiting room is impersonal, with white walls and old magazines on a coffee table. A nurse calls me and leads me to an office where Dr. Robert Vance waits for me. He is a man of about 50, with glasses and an expression that tries to be kind but doesn't reach his eyes. Mrs. Sullivan, have a seat. This won't take much time. I just need to ask you some questions to evaluate your current mental state. The questions begin simply. My full name, my date of birth, the day of the week, the name of the current president. I answer everything correctly. But then the questions change. Do you have any concerns regarding your family? Do I have concerns that my son is trying to take my house? I answer honestly. The doctor notes something in his pad. And why do you think your son would want to do that? Because his fiancée is pressuring him. Because they want the property in his name. Does that seem like a reasonable concern to you? Or do you feel you might be being excessively suspicious? It is a trap. Anything I say will be used against me. It is reasonable to worry when someone pressures you to hand over your assets. I say carefully. The doctor nods and keeps writing. Do you feel capable of managing your own financial affairs? Yes. I have paid my bills for 40 years. Without help? Without help. And don't you think at your age it would be safer to have someone help you with those responsibilities? Another trap. If I say no, I seem stubborn. If I say yes, I am admitting I need help. I believe that as long as I am capable, I should maintain my independence, I reply. The evaluation continues for an hour. Every question designed to make me seem paranoid, confused, incapable. When it finally ends, the doctor tells me he will send his report to the court in a week. I leave the office feeling violated, examined, judged. The lawyer's office is downtown, in an old but dignified building. I climb 3 flights of stairs that creak under my feet and find a glass door with gold lettering. Henderson Law Firm, Family Law and Estates. The receptionist buzzes me in after a few minutes. Attorney David Henderson is a man of about 60, with gray hair and a look that seems to have seen too many family tragedies. Mrs. Sullivan, please sit down. Tell me what brings you here. I hand him the documents for the conservatorship petition. He reads them in silence, frowning more and more. Your son filed this? He asks finally. Yes. And what is the real reason behind all this? I tell him everything. From Jessica's first demand to Eleanor's visit, from the notary's calls to the psychiatric evaluation this morning, I leave nothing out. Mr. Henderson listens without interrupting. When I finish, he leans back in his chair and sighs deeply. Mrs. Margaret. Unfortunately, these types of cases are more common than people think. Children who try to declare their parents incompetent to gain control over their assets, and the legal system, designed to protect vulnerable seniors, ends up being used as a weapon against them. Can I defend myself? You can, and you must. But I need to be honest with you. It is going to be difficult. The Sterling firm has influence in this city. They have built a case that looks solid on paper. They have testimonies, they have a psychiatrist, they have documentation. So there is no hope? I didn't say that. I said it will be difficult, but you have something in your favor. You are clearly lucid, coherent, and have valid reasons to protect your assets. We can hire our own independent psychiatrist for a second evaluation. We can present evidence that this is a manipulation strategy, not a genuine concern for your well-being. How much is all this going to cost? The lawyer does some calculations on a piece of paper. Between my fees, the independent psychiatrist, court costs, and other expenses, we are probably talking about $2,500, maybe $3,000. I feel as if I have been punched in the stomach. My monthly check is $1,200. I have some savings, less than $5,000 in total, saved for emergencies. This is the biggest emergency of my life. I can pay it, I say with a firm voice. Do what you have to do. Mr. Henderson nods. Good. I'm going to need you to bring me all the documents. You have the deed to your house, utility payment receipts, your medical history, anything that shows you have been managing your affairs competently. I have them all. Perfect. I'm also going to need you to write a detailed statement of everything that has happened. Every conversation, every pressure, every threat. And Mrs. Margaret, one more thing. Prepare yourself emotionally. This is going to get ugly. Your son and his fiancée aren't going to stop easily. They are going to say things. They are going to make accusations. It is going to hurt. It already hurts. I say softly. I know. But it is going to hurt more before it gets better. I leave the lawyer's office feeling a strange mixture of hope and terror. I have someone on my side. Finally. But the price of that help is going to consume a large part of my savings. And even so, I have no choice. That afternoon I sit at my dining table and start writing everything. Every detail, every conversation, every moment I felt pressured, manipulated, threatened. I write for hours. The words flow from my pen, as if they had been waiting to be released. Pages of a story I never thought I would have to tell. How the son I loved unconditionally became someone willing to destroy me legally to get my property. When I finally finish, It is 11 at night. I have 16 handwritten pages. Each one hurts more than the last. Tuesday morning, I return to Mr. Henderson's office with all the documents he asked for. He reviews them carefully, nodding as he reads my statement. This is good, Margaret. Very detailed, very clear. This is going to help us. How much time do we have before the hearing? According to the notice, they have a preliminary hearing scheduled in 3 weeks. That day, the judge will review the documents and decide if the case proceeds or if he dismisses it. And what are our chances of getting it dismissed? Mr. Henderson looks me directly in the eye. Being honest, maybe 30%, but if we go to a full trial, with our evaluations and evidence, I would say we have 60, maybe 70% chance of winning. That means there is a 30% chance of losing. Yes, he admits. But it is better than doing nothing. You're right. I'm going to file our formal opposition today. I'm also going to request that the independent psychiatric evaluation be expedited. The faster we demonstrate your competence, the better. Do what you have to do, I say. This house is all I have. I am not going to hand it over without a fight. The lawyer smiles for the first time. That is the attitude we need. I leave his office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Determination. I am not going to yield. I am not going to let them snatch my dignity. I am not going to allow my son, manipulated or not, to turn me into a victim of the legal system. I am going to fight, and if at the end of this battle I lose my son forever, at least I will know I didn't lose my soul in the process. That night, alone in my house, I look at the walls that hold so many stories. Every corner has a memory. Every room is a testimony of years of effort and love. This house isn't just bricks and mortar, it is my life. It is my identity. It is the physical proof that I survived, that I worked, that I built something with my own hands. And no one, not even my own son, is going to take it from me without me giving the fight of my life. I pour myself a cup of tea and sit by the window. Outside, the night is quiet. The stars shine in the dark sky. The world keeps turning, indifferent to my personal drama. But I am no longer the same woman I was a month ago. I am no longer the mother who would have sacrificed anything to see her son happy. Now I am a woman who finally understood that protecting herself is not selfishness, it is survival. The days before the preliminary hearing pass in a haze of preparation and anxiety. Mr. Henderson makes me go over my testimony again and again. He prepares me for the questions Michael's lawyer will likely ask. He warns me about the intimidation tactics they might use. Are you ready to see your son in court? He asks me during one of our sessions. No, I admit, but I will do it anyway. The independent psychiatrist Mr. Henderson hired evaluates me during 2 extensive sessions. She is an older woman, Dr. Johanna Diaz, with a kind but professional gaze. Unlike Dr. Vance, she doesn't ask trick questions. She asks about my daily life, about how I manage my finances, about my social relationships. She gives me simple cognitive tests and other more complex ones. At the end of the second session, she says something that makes me want to cry with relief. Mrs. Margaret, you are completely lucid and capable. There is no indication of significant cognitive impairment. Your capacity to make decisions is intact. I am going to put that in my report with absolute clarity. Thank you, is all I can say. The night before the hearing, I don't sleep. I lie awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything that could go wrong, thinking about the possibility of seeing Michael on the other side of the courtroom, arguing that his own mother isn't capable of taking care of herself. How did we get to this? I ask aloud in the darkness. At what moment did love turn into this? But there is no answer. Only the silence of my house and the weight of the morning approaching. I arrive at the courthouse at 8:30 in the morning. Mr. Henderson waits for me on the steps. He carries a worn leather briefcase and a serious expression. How are you feeling? Terrified, I admit. It's normal. Remember, you haven't done anything wrong. You are here defending your right to keep what is yours. Keep your head high. We enter the building together. The hallways smell of old paper and life-changing decisions. I see other people waiting, each with their own story of family pain. We go up to the second floor and head to courtroom 3. When we enter, my heart stops. Michael is already there, sitting on the other side of the room with the lawyer from the Sterling firm. And next to him, as expected, is Jessica. Our eyes meet for a second. I see something in his eyes I cannot decipher. Is it shame, guilt, or simply the determination to get what he wants? He is the first to look away. The judge enters, and we all stand up. He is an older man, about 70, with a face marked by years of listening to sad stories. He sits and reviews the documents in front of him. Case number 2, 1024 to 345. Michael Sullivan versus Margaret Sullivan. Petition for conservatorship due to alleged mental incapacity. His voice is neutral, but every word drives into my chest like a nail. Michael's lawyer stands up first. He is a young man, probably from the Sterling family, with an expensive suit and a confident smile. Your Honor, my client is here out of genuine concern for his mother's well-being. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan, 67 years old, has shown erratic and irrational behavior. She refuses to make sensible decisions regarding her estate, shows excessive distrust toward her own family, and isolates herself socially. We have medical documentation and testimonies supporting our request. The judge nods and looks toward our side. Defense? Mr. Henderson stands up calmly. Your Honor, this is not a case of family concern. It is a case of asset manipulation. Mrs. Sullivan is completely lucid and capable, as demonstrated by the evaluation from Dr. Johanna Diaz that we have submitted. What her son calls irrational behavior is simply a woman exercising her legitimate right to protect her property from undue pressure. The judge raises his hand. Let's hear testimony. Mr. Sullivan, go ahead. Michael gets up and walks to the stand. He is sworn in and sits. From here I can see his profile, the tension in his shoulders, the way he clenches his hands. Mr. Sullivan, explain to the court why you believe your mother cannot handle her own affairs. Michael's voice sounds shaky at first, but it strengthens. My mother has changed in the last few months. She has become suspicious, paranoid even. She believes my fiancé and I want to take her house when we only want to help her. She refuses to accept reasonable advice. She lives alone in a house that is deteriorating and that she cannot maintain properly on her pension. And you have genuine concern for her well-being? Yes, Your Honor. She is my mother. I love her. I only want the best for her. The words sound pretty, but they are empty. They are the script they gave him, the lines he rehearsed. Mr. Henderson stands up for cross-examination. Mr. Sullivan, is it true that your fiancé conditioned the marriage on your mother's house being transferred to your name? Michael hesitates. Not exactly. Yes or no, Mr. Sullivan? She expressed concern about financial security. Did she threaten to cancel the wedding if your mother didn't sign the transfer? I wouldn't put it in those terms. How would you put it then? Michael looks toward Jessica, seeking support. She remains motionless, with a stone face. She said she needed security before getting married. And that security required your 67-year-old mother to hand over her only property? Yes. Does it seem reasonable to you to demand that as a condition for marriage? Objection, says Michael's lawyer. He is badgering the witness. Withdrawn, says Mr. Henderson. One last question, Mr. Sullivan. If the court dismisses this case and your mother keeps her house, will you continue to have a relationship with her? The silence that follows is devastating. Michael opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. Me? That would depend on her. It would depend on whether she gave you what you want? Objection. Sustained. Mr. Henderson, watch yourself. No further questions, Your Honor. Michael steps down from the stand with his head lowered. He doesn't look at me as he passes. The judge looks at his watch. We are going to take a 15-minute recess. Then we will hear from Mrs. Sullivan. The room partially empties. I remain seated, unable to move. Mr. Henderson leans toward me. You're doing well. Stay calm when you go up. Answer clearly and honestly. Show that you are perfectly capable. I nod. But my throat is so tight I can't speak. In 15 minutes, I'm going to have to sit on that stand and defend my sanity, my capability, my right to exist as an autonomous person, and all because I loved a son too much who learned to see that love as weakness. The recess ends too quickly. When the judge returns, I feel as if every second were an eternity compressed into an instant. Mrs. Sullivan, step forward, please. I stand up on shaky legs. I walk to the stand, feeling the weight of all the eyes on me. I am sworn in and sit, trying to maintain composure. Mr. Henderson approaches with a kind expression. Mrs. Margaret, can you tell us how old you are and what your current situation is? I am 67 years old. I have been a widow for 15 years. I live alone in the house I built with my late husband. I receive a Social Security check of $1,200 a month, and I manage it without problems. Do you pay your bills on time? Always. I have receipts for the last 10 years, if necessary. Do you manage your own health? Yes. I have regular medical checkups. I take medication for blood pressure, nothing else. I cook my own meals. I clean my house. I tend my garden. Do you feel capable of making decisions about your own life? Completely capable. Why do you think your son filed this conservatorship petition? I take a deep breath before answering. Because I refuse to transfer my house to him. His fiancée made it a condition of marriage that the property be in his name. When I resisted, the pressure started. First it was the fiancée, then her mother, then lawyers and notaries. And when none of that worked, they decided to use the legal system to take away not just my house, but my right to decide over my own life. My voice remains firm. Every word is clear, precise. Objection, says Michael's lawyer. She is making baseless accusations. I am answering the question I was asked, I say before the judge can intervene. The judge looks at me with renewed attention. Continue. Mrs. Sullivan, my son and his fiancée are not worried about my well-being. They are worried about my property, and when a 67-year-old mother refuses to be stripped of her security, they call her incapable, paranoid, irrational. But the only irrational thing here is pretending that stealing someone's house is an act of love. The silence in the room is absolute. I can feel Michael watching me, but I don't turn. I keep my eyes on the judge. No further questions, says Mr. Henderson. Michael's lawyer stands for cross-examination. He approaches with a condescending smile. Mrs. Sullivan, don't you think you are being a bit dramatic? No. I think I am being honest. Your son only wants to help you. My son wants my house. Isn't it possible that you are misinterpreting his intentions due to, let's say, age-related confusion? I am not confused. I know exactly what is happening. Have you considered that perhaps your judgment is clouded by irrational fear? My fear is not irrational. It is completely justified. When someone threatens to take everything you have, fear is the sane response. The lawyer changes tactics. Mrs. Sullivan, your house needs repairs you cannot afford. Wouldn't it be more sensible to allow your son to take charge? I prefer to live in a house that needs repairs, but is mine, than to live in a mansion that belongs to someone else. Even if that someone else is your son? Especially if it is my son who took it from me against my will. The lawyer is visibly frustrated. Do you not love your son? The question hits me like a slap, but I answer with a clear voice. I loved my son every day of his life. I worked 3 jobs to give him an education. I sold my jewelry to pay for his college. I skipped meals so he could eat. But that son is not the man sitting there. That man learned that his mother's love was something he could exploit, and when he couldn't exploit it anymore, he decided to destroy it legally. Michael stands up abruptly from his seat. That's not true. The judge bangs his gavel. Order, Mr. Sullivan, sit down. But Michael doesn't sit. He looks at me with eyes full of something I cannot decipher. Mom, I just want to take care of you. Why can't you understand that? My voice comes out soft but firm. Because caring doesn't mean controlling, Michael. Caring doesn't mean taking away someone's autonomy. Caring doesn't mean threatening and manipulating until you get what you want. Jessica made me, he starts to say, but stops. It is the first time he says something resembling the truth. The judge bangs the gavel again. Mr. Sullivan, sit down immediately or I will have you removed from the courtroom. Michael collapses into his chair. Jessica, beside him, has a face of stone. The judge looks at me for a long moment. Then he looks at Michael. Then he reviews the documents in front of him. I have heard enough, he says finally. I am going to give my decision. My heart beats so hard I can hear it in my ears. Mrs. Margaret Sullivan has proven to be completely lucid and capable. Her testimony has been coherent, articulate, and reasonable. Dr. Diaz's evaluation confirms there is no significant cognitive impairment. On the other hand, the motivations behind this conservatorship petition are questionable at best and clearly manipulative at worst. The judge pauses. This court dismisses the petition for conservatorship. Mrs. Sullivan retains full legal capacity to handle her own affairs. Furthermore, I order that the legal costs of the defense be covered by the petitioner. This case is closed. The bang of the gavel sounds like a gunshot. I won. Mr. Henderson squeezes my shoulder with relief. But I don't feel joy. Only an immense emptiness. Because I won the legal battle, but I lost my son. I get up from the stand and walk toward the exit without looking back. I hear Michael's voice calling me, but I don't stop. Not until I am outside the courthouse, breathing fresh air, feeling the sun on my face. There, finally, the tears begin to fall. But they aren't tears of defeat. They are tears of liberation. Because for the first time in months, maybe in years, I am completely the owner of myself. 3 months have passed since the hearing. 3 months of absolute silence from Michael. He hasn't called. He hasn't come to visit. It is as if he disappeared from my life as completely as if he never existed. At first, that silence hurt like an open wound. Every morning I woke up expecting the phone to ring, to hear him apologizing, explaining that it had been a terrible mistake, that Jessica had manipulated him. But the phone never rang. And little by little, something strange began to happen. The pain started to transform into something different. Not indifference exactly, but acceptance. Understanding that some relationships, even the most sacred ones, have a breaking point from which there is no return. My house is still mine. Every morning I wake up in my own bed, in my own home, with the certainty that no one can take it from me. I pay my bills. I tend my garden. I live on my $1,200 check and the savings I have left after paying the legal fees. It isn't a life of luxury, but it is my life. Mine completely. I have started doing things I hadn't done since Michael was small. I joined a reading group at the neighborhood library. I go twice a week. The other women in the group are my age, some older. We all have stories of children who disappointed us, of families who failed us, of moments when we had to choose between our dignity and the love demanding we sacrifice it. One of them, Eleanor, ironically sharing the same name as Jessica's mother, is different. She is a woman who lost her house by signing it over to her son. Now she lives in a small room at the back of the house that was once hers, treated like a burden by her daughter-in-law. When I hear her story, I silently give thanks every day for having had the courage to say no. This afternoon I am in the garden pruning the roses when I see a car stop in front of my house. My heart jumps thinking, maybe it is Michael, that he has finally come. But when the door opens, I see it is a young woman I don't know. She is about 30, with long dark hair, wearing a simple dress. She approaches the fence with a nervous expression. "Mrs. Margaret Sullivan?" "Yes, that's me," I answer cautiously. "My name is Ashley. I am. I was Jessica's best friend. Was. The tense tells me something changed. What can I do for you?" She looks around as if fearing someone might see her. "Can I come in? There is something you need to know." I open the gate and invite her in. We sit in the living room and I offer her water, which she accepts with trembling hands. "I shouldn't be here," she says. "If Jessica finds out, she will never forgive me. But I can't keep quiet after what I saw." "What did you see?" Ashley takes a deep breath. Jessica did the same thing to her previous boyfriend. 3 years ago, she was going to marry a 50-year-old man, a widower, with his own house. She demanded he put the house in her name before the wedding. He refused. She left him, and a week later tried to sue him for breach of promise, trying to get financial compensation. I feel as if the ground moves beneath my feet. "There's more," continues Ashley. "Eleanor, her mother, does the same. She has had 3 partners in the last 10 years, all widowers with properties. It always ends the same. She gets them to transfer the property for love, and then the relationship mysteriously deteriorates." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because when I heard what they did to you the trial, trying to declare you incompetent, I realized they aren't just greedy. They are dangerous. And your son is going to realize it sooner or later. But by then, maybe it will be too late." "Does Michael know this?" "I don't know. But he should. Jessica canceled the wedding 2 weeks ago. She said Michael wasn't ambitious enough, that she was disappointed in him. I should feel satisfaction hearing this, some kind of poetic justice. But what I feel is sadness. Sadness for my son, who chased something false so hard he lost something real. Thank you for telling me, I tell Ashley. I know it wasn't easy. She gets up to leave. Your son was lucky to have you. I wish there were someone like that to protect those other victims. When she leaves, I stay seated in my living room thinking about everything she just revealed. Part of me wants to call Michael, warn him, protect him, as I have always done. But another part of me, the part that grew in these last few months, knows I cannot keep protecting him from the consequences of his own decisions. He chose to believe Jessica instead of me. He chose the court instead of dialogue. He chose ambition over love. And now he has to live with those choices. 2 weeks later, on a rainy Tuesday, I hear a knock at my door. When I open it, Michael is there. But it isn't the confident and demanding Michael of months ago. It is a man who seems to have aged years in weeks. He has deep circles under his eyes. His clothes are wrinkled. He looks defeated. "Mom," he says with a broken voice, "can I come in?" For a moment I consider closing the door. It would be my right after everything he did. But I am his mother, and despite everything, a part of me always will be. "Come in," I say. We enter the living room. He sits on the same sofa where it all started months ago, but now his shoulders are slumped, his gaze on the floor. "You were right," he says finally. "About everything. Jessica. She only wanted the house. When the judge dismissed the case, when it became clear we wouldn't get the property, she started to change. She started to distance herself. And 2 weeks ago, she told me she couldn't marry someone as unambitious as me. I'm sorry, I say. And I mean it. No, Mom. You don't have to feel anything. I am the one who is sorry. I tried to take your house. I tried to declare you incompetent. I called you selfish when you were the only person who saw the truth. His eyes fill with tears. How could you ever forgive me? I don't know if I can, I say honestly. I don't know if things can go back to how they were. I don't expect them to, he says. I just hope. I just need you to know that I was wrong, that I was blind, that I traded the best person in my life for someone who only saw numbers where there should have been love. The silence that follows is long. Outside, rain hits against the windows. You are going to have to rebuild my trust, I say finally. Not with words, with time, with actions, with proof that you understand what you did and why it was so wrong. I will, he says. As long as you need, my whole life if necessary. I promise him nothing. I give him no false hope. But I don't close the door completely either, because I learned something in these months of pain and struggle. True love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It means maintaining your boundaries while keeping your heart open to the possibility of change. Michael leaves half an hour later. When he closes the door behind him, I stand in my living room, my house, my home. Outside, the rain begins to calm. A ray of sun breaks through the clouds and enters through the window, illuminating the photographs on the mantel. Photos of a life built with effort and love. Photos of a woman who almost lost everything, but who found the strength to say no when it mattered. I pour myself a cup of tea and sit by the window. The garden shines with raindrops. The rose bushes I pruned are starting to bloom again. And so am I. I don't know if Michael and I will ever rebuild what broke. I don't know if he really learned the lesson or if he is just hurt by Jessica's rejection. But I know this. I kept my house. I kept my dignity. I kept my right to own my own life. And that, after all, is enough. Because at the end of the day, when all the battles have been fought and all the tears have been shed, the only thing we really have left is the person we are when we are alone with ourselves. And I can look in the mirror and be proud of the woman I see. A woman who knew when to let go and when to hold on. Who knew the difference between love and manipulation. Who understood that protecting herself is not selfishness, but wisdom. A woman who finally, after 67 years of living for others, learned to live for herself too. And in that lesson, painful as it was, I found my freedom.